Welcome to a Delco Nerd Network Hot Take. Guys, if you haven't seen a hot take before, well, it's where a few friends get in a basement, give our thoughts, give our opinions on a TV show, a movie, or a game. Today, it's going to be a movie, and that movie is Uncharted, based off the hit video game series of the same name. My name is Anthony Ragucci, and here to discuss, to my left, Uncharted's biggest fan, Tom DeFulvio. He's back.
Back again.
And returning... It's been almost 2 years, Phil.
It has.
Since your COVID appearance on
Eternal
and Resident Evil 3. Phil Nicosia over leftmost.
Thanks for having me.
Phil, thank you for coming on. Well, you two, you guys got to start. I'm obviously not starting with this, but you pick between yourselves who wants to start.
Yeah, I'm eager to get into it, but also to have you get into it. I think more or less you both, because it's kind of like having like a right-wing media have a left-wing head on, or vice versa, because I think you're really going to disagree on things.
For sure.
I imagine that I'll be somewhat in the middle ground.
Okay.
I was not as emotionally attached to it as I think Tom certainly was. So I would probably say we should start by having one of you go. Maybe Tom.
Tom's got to go first. Tom's
right.
The Uncharted fan. You're the guy. You're the Uncharted guy of this crew.
Yeah, I've been a part of it literally since it launched.
Yeah.
In like Christmas of 2007. So like seeing this movie, this film like is an absolute travesty.
I'm actually surprised you're referring to it as a film.
It's like it's not like it's not a film. It's like watching, I don't know. Honestly, a cartoon would be better.
Cartoon, anime.
I would rather
adaptation.
watch like they should have done like Beowulf with Uncharted graphics.
What if they did like Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse thing?
Yeah, exactly.
But with the characters of Uncharted.
Perfect example.
I don't know if I'd be.
You
down
don't see
with
that. Okay.
No.
It like this.
Would you prefer that? You would have preferred that.
100%.
You would not have preferred that.
Nah. Uncharted's a very it's real. It's very real. Besides the fantastical stuff,
they had like the problem is that they already have the cast for it. So like all they would have had to do, you just
voice, yeah.
Do motion capture Beowulf with like crazily.
I'm definitely not seeing that.
Then the game and just get Nolan North and Richard McGowan.
Yeah, see, I think this is where when we had left the theater last night, me and Tom we spoke briefly about it because I think he just didn't even want to talk about it to a certain extent. But one of the differences between the way he viewed going into it as opposed to the way that I did was I tend to not want a movie adaptation to strictly follow the
games.
Yeah. Like I think there are certain tenets of it that should play itself to me. Like the game makes me feel a certain emotion. I want to feel that way or beyond with the film. I think Tom more or less was looking to see the Nolan North and Tom Holland, and you're just not going to see that.
Right.
I saw Tom Holland I saw Spider-Man.
Not necessarily. I mean, he could have it's just a whole combination of everything. Like they could have easily done like a Uncharted 3 style young Nate situation, which is what they were attempting to do. But it's just not the same. It's because it's so adapted to the Hollywood like Sony experience that you're not watching Uncharted, you're watching just like a Sony funded movie.
Okay.
It's just
I think it's fine. Uncharted is fine. And that's it. It's not great. There's no way it can be great.
All right.
I could think more on Time's side where I can understand it being trash, but there's no way you can be like, that movie is fucking great. Like
it would be difficult to compare the video game to the film, but in the essence of you've played all four,
correct? And
Lost Legacy. I think it would help to know like what your kind of overall
what I think of Uncharted.
Yeah, because I didn't ask you last night
good
like
point. Because I think Uncharted is pretty overrated.
There you go.
I don't dislike it.
right.
And I think we've had this conversation plenty of times. Like, I don't dislike Uncharted, but playing it after the fact, where, you know what? This happened with Resident Evil 4. I just played it for the first time, and I've seen RE4, and I know the jive, I know the gist. And I get into it, and I go, Yeah, it's kind of hard to like think of any like a game that people compare as like one of the greatest of all time, Resident Evil 4. It's hard to go in there and think of an opinion of that same level or higher. Like you can only be lower.
Okay, Uncharted, Last of Us.
Last of Us.
Tom?
Uncharted 4 though
Dude.
is really good.
Okay, Uncharted 4 or Uncharted 3?
Uncharted 4.
Uncharted 4 or Uncharted 2?
Uncharted 4. I really like Uncharted 4.
Tom?
Uncharted 2 is the pinnacle of like third-person action games, and it will not.
I
be
actually
topped.
disagree with both of you. I think Uncharted 3 was my favorite. Installment.
I think it goes 4, 3, 2, 1. Like it really goes backwards.
Oh,
That
man.
I
Yeah,
can't
that
agree
is-
with. I'm gonna go
man.
with like 3 and 1 and 4 are tied for me, and 2 I did not enjoy nearly as much as everybody else seemed to. But
that's a real like hot opinion that people like.
Yeah.
people are
2
really
over
strong with
3.
2, which is similar
Yeah.
to Jurassic Park, which I also think 1 and 2 are bad.
Yeah,
Jurassic
two's and two. Uncharted 2 is like fucking.
But again,
incredible.
I'm playing them 10 years after they came out on the collection.
Yeah, which is a lot.
Yeah,
A lot of
so-
people do that.
Yeah, so it
And you
is
did
kind
that,
of
and that's probably one of the
It
reasons.
could certainly be part of it.
right,
Well,
and
because I
I
played them
know
after
the
the fact.
the caliber of these games, so I'm going into them and I'm kind of like, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. Okay. Well,
yeah,
with,
I'm
with that
enjoying
being
it.
said, if I gave the entire video game franchise as a whole, if I gave that like an 8 to 9 on my favorability, I would have given this film a 2 to a 3.
Okay.
Okay, Tom.
Yeah,
We know you're
yeah.
standing at like a 9 to a 10 with Uncharted.
Dude, Uncharted's like 11.
All right, Uncharted's 11.
Uncharted 2 is like 11.
All
out of
right,
10.
now what's the movie?
The movie is like a 1.
You're like at a 10
Now, see,
point
now we
spread.
have to bring in the Luke Kenny film review system. I don't know if you guys, might. Do you know? Is
what?
this
Did he,
is
like,
this
patented?
This is patented. Luke came on
Not surprised by
the
this.
Fraser Rewind review, and he's like, "Here's my scale," and I'm like, "This is perfect." So high tier, mid tier, low tier film, high tier, mid tier, low tier movie, high tier, mid tier, low tier flick, and I think this is a mid to high tier flick.
That's pretty low, I feel like.
It's good.
Okay.
I like it. It's not total trash, but like it can't be it's a flick.
I think once we kind of sparse this, we can get more into the film itself, the actual, the guts of the movie. But I think if I had to respond to that, I would say, this isn't even a movie, it's a commercial. And I'm not even sure what they're selling because I'm not even sure they're going to promote. I mean, it does seem to have a sequel being, imagined.
Teased or whatever.
Yeah. But it's difficult to put this on a scale outside of, like this is like a Marvel commercial. That's how and I think most of the Marvel movies they're like Super Bowl ads. Like it's hard for me to take a lot of them seriously.
Yeah.
Obviously that's just my opinion.
Yeah.
This fell in the same category for me. I actually was pleasantly surprised in the same way that I'm sometimes pleasantly surprised by Marvel, where I do catch 1 or 2 of the films and I think, hey, there were a couple parts where, when they do it right, and it's effective, and I can watch this and enjoy it. And this had some of those elements at the same time. But beyond that, I would say that it's difficult to even review this as a film for me because it's more or less it's like a Super Bowl ad.
So you can't even put it on Luke Kenny's.
No, I
system.
probably wouldn't. It's not, I find it hard to imagine that anybody seriously involved in movie making worked on this film and thought, this is a good movie. I think they all accepted.
I could agree with you, and
There's a lot of-
especially with Sony.
Yeah.
Avi Arad is involved in this. If you know anything about Sony, you know his like memery.
And
you
I think
know?
I mentioned in the theater last night that the director, did we mention who the director was and what they've worked on?
No.
I think we did.
Yeah, do you want to look that up?
Yeah, look it up. This way
what
we
do you-
know it. Because
What do you have?
It's the guy who did Venom.
that's right.
Yeah,
That's right. We did talk about that.
What?
Yeah, that's right. We
Oh
did.
my
We did
god!
talk
I
about
don't know
that.
if I can do this anymore. guys.
Yeah.
I hate Venom. Can
Can we find out who did the soundtrack? Because I know last night we mentioned Michael Giacchino, but that's Batman. That's the upcoming.
Yeah, Michael Giacchino's doing
Doing
the
Batman.
Batman.
Yes.
So Are you even putting it on a scale? Is it a low tier flick for you?
Is it a Super Bowl ad or is it a film?
It's not Uncharted, so I just wouldn't recommend. If you're a fan of the game, like, don't watch this.
Oh.
See, I would say go watch it.
I agree.
I'm
not
go
even
watch
close.
it. As a
I
fan of
enjoyed the
Assassin's
games.
Creed, I should go watch the Assassin's Creed movie.
I enjoyed the Uncharted games.
That's where I'm at.
I enjoyed watching this movie, even just for the fun of, hey, I know that thing. Hey, there's
right,
and that's what makes it a Super Bowl ad.
And there are those moments, and the movie is kind of based in Four's plot points.
Some
it's
of them.
base, like the base of
the
Four,
fundamentals,
and then we're just gonna kind of take all the narrative out of Four and just kind of make our own thing, which is fine. Because look at it, I don't know if you guys have seen the Tomb Raider movie that is based off the 2013 reboot. That pretty much just takes that game and adapts it almost too closely to where it is boring.
Yeah.
Like, it's another fine movie, but you're just kind of like, yeah, I played this.
I think all four of us last night at the theater had mentioned that part of the issue with doing a film adaptation of a video game series is that they are 4+ games into this franchise, and everyone has become very familiar with these characters. And in order to reassemble this band of characters within a very short period of time is difficult. And it's kind of unfair. I felt at times where I was like, I'm being unfair. They only have so much time to fit certain elements into this that will please me.
It was just under 2 hours, by the way.
I was kind of surprised.
It didn't feel long.
I was kind of surprised how long it was. Yeah,
really surprised how long it was.
It doesn't feel like a 2 hour.
It felt like a 2 hour movie.
It did, but I didn't think that it was going to be before going into it. I didn't know the runtime.
So I knew who did the soundtrack. I don't know if Trio got it up, but I got it up. It's the guy. It's Ramin Djawadi. He did Game of Thrones.
Yeah. See, this is part of the issue with these projects is that, and if I spent more time at this table, I would begin to sound like a broken record. But the point I've made about it being a Super Bowl ad is, let me drive this home so that I don't have to say it anymore. When you watch a Super Bowl ad, a lot of it is homage or reoccurring characters from past film projects or past music projects. Like did anybody see the Austin Powers Super Bowl ad? I think it was General Motors.
It was General Motors for electric vehicles.
The point I'm making about it being a Super Bowl ad is there's constantly this feeling with Super Bowl ads where we know that there's a shared audience for something that was popular at one time. And revamping those characters in their world in an environment where we maybe didn't think we were going to see those characters anymore is exciting for people. When they show the Austin Powers ad and they put them back in this world and Mike Myers is bald and there's mini-me jokes, I immediately feel that I'm back in this world. They didn't even have to make a whole movie. They just had to make 2 minutes of this, and I'm satisfied because they made a joke that I'm familiar with. They referenced a character I'm familiar with. And I think the same way that I've criticized Mandalorian and Book of Boba Fett for this, it feels like I understand in an industry when there are artists that are successful, they reutilize those artists and they transition them to different studios. Like the guy who did Black Panther. He was hired to do Mandalorian, the soundtrack.
Trio, what's his name?
From what I'm aware of, I'm almost positive.
Wait, the director?
No, the score, the sound.
Oh, I don't know.
The guy who does the soundtrack for Mandalorian. He was hired after Black Panther, and the point that me and Tom have talked about with this was, it's totally plausible that in any industry, people who are successful, despite the fact maybe they're not even critically successful, but popular, they seem to do well the rest of their career. They move around.
Sure.
The problem that I have in the Super Bowl reference is that I'm not surprised at all to know that the Game of Thrones guy did Uncharted.
I am.
Are you?
Yes.
What? You are.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
And I'm equally...
That Game of Thrones soundtrack is unbelievable. Not just the main theme. I'm
equally unsurprised that the Venom director directed this because
that makes me upset. But the fact that it's Sony now putting 2 and 2 together makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, well, that certainly does make sense. But I think the point that I'm attempting to make is that it's it's not necessarily even fan service. It's just more of the same.
It's corporate.
Yeah, it's like cliquey.
They
almost.
They know who they can hire to get the job done, and who will do a satisfactory job for the majority of the audience.
That is
they just
not
pull the guy over and
getting the guy from Game of Thrones is not a risk It's not.
Yeah, exactly.
It's not an
They're not taking any
investment.
risks.
Right. Game,
It's simply,
anything
hey,
involved-
this guy did Game of Thrones. Everybody liked Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
Throw him on this
Get him on
project
the
that has
project.
that he might be in no way
See,
prepared
anything
to
involved
deliver.
with Game of Thrones at this point is taboo.
Why so? Even
Maybe
the
not taboo,
girl in
toxic,
Force Awakens,
because of the way Game of Thrones ended. It left such a bad taste in the Game of Thrones.
It's
cycle.
It's possible, but it's exceeding popularity at the time when it was most popular. Transitioned it into a space where everything else that was planned to be popular, every Kathleen Kennedy project, every Star Wars project, it seemed like we can just drag, and Marvel does it. Like Morbius, right? Or Morpheus. What is the new Jared Leto?
Morbius.
He was the Joker, right? In DC's world. And it seemed like he was critically scorned for his performance in that. But Marvel has just grabbed him and dropped him in their world now without any consequences. It's almost like there was...
Well, that's Sony. Sorry to interrupt.
That's Sony?
Sony.
I mean,
In association with Marvel.
I can claim my own ignorance on that world because I don't dabble much in it. But from what I can tell, it's very boring that for something like Uncharted, I know the Sony involvement definitely plays a role, and you guys would know more about it. But Uncharted being this original story and this original project that was born out of a team that is known for Crash Bandicoot and Jack, like these strong, independent, original titles. That was the birth of Nathan Drake and Uncharted. And to put him in this commercial environment where you've vacuumed the Game of Thrones guy and you vacuumed the Venom director, it's gross. It doesn't, when they originally announced it, you had Russell. Correct?
Yeah. David O. Russell was going to
do
and
this.
I think he wrote the script.
Correct.
For the original,
and De Niro and Bradley
he wrote the
Cooper
original
were
screenplay.
slated to star in this film.
Yeah.
And it was a serious film. It probably would have been filmed on like 40
and
millimeter film.
he probably picked it up because
What's David O. Russell done?
Silver Linings Playbook.
and
Okay, now it
Yes.
makes sense why he has those two.
Yes. And
Okay.
yeah, exactly.
And I kind of going back and like I felt at some points that the script was kind of written to, like I said, with Sully, I'm like, it feels like these jokes are for an old man Sully. Like, Mark Wahlberg isn't that old, and he doesn't look that old. I don't really know how old Mark Wahlberg is, but
he looks good for his age. He's
Yeah.
probably in his late 40s.
yeah, probably.
yeah, and I'm sitting here and I'm just like, I don't feel like Sully's old. Like, I get that him and Drake are not in the same generation.
I was gonna say he might be 50. How old is he? 50? Yeah.
On the dot, 50 on the dot. He looks 50. Like, he looks his age.
Yep.
I almost think that maybe Sully should have just been older and Nate should have been.
Right.
Tom Holland is a fine Nathan Drake. He's fine. It's
He's a
serviceable.
great Spider-Man. And he's a great Spider-Man in this movie. Because he essentially plays
you know what's
Spider-Man.
fun?
in this movie.
It's a really different voice.
It is a very
It's a
different
really
voice.
different voice, which I kind
is.
of have to give a little credit to him. Because it's one thing I'll give is Nathan Drake. It's not as jokey as I thought it was going to be. And I kind of like that they showed him being inexperienced because that makes sense. This isn't the Nathan Drake we meet in Drake's Fortune. He's
Yeah,
not
no.
experienced at all.
It's supposed to be like
So,
Uncharted 3.
him getting
Correct.
fucked
It's like
up
the
a little.
flashbacks in Uncharted 3.
Him getting fucked up a little bit, I'm fine with. Sully, on the other hand, again, going back to those like...
So you felt Sully was less effective than Drake.
And I also don't really like Mark Wahlberg, and that was my thing. I'm like, I can deal with Tom Holland, even though I've been very critical of Tom Holland in the past and his Spider-Man. But Mark Wahlberg, there's a better pick. Even the fan casting of Stephen Lang as Sully, Nathan Fillion
Yeah,
as
that was
Drake,
Drake. That
and
was
who
pretty
was Elena?
convincing. Who knows?
And but like,
She was good.
and I'm like, that fan video they did was great.
It was better than this.
Right. It was
Yeah,
better than
like,
this, yeah.
and but the reason is because it was closer to what we know as Uncharted.
It was not just closer to what we know to Uncharted. It was closer. It was played a lot closer to the vest in the sense that we I think can all accept the fact that Uncharted, despite the fact that I referenced earlier, was born out of like this Naughty Dog studio, this independent original story. It was heavily influenced by the 1980s Romancing the Stone, Indiana
right.
Jones.
For
the
sure.
Hardy Boys detective
Yeah.
stuff.
Very obvious stuff.
And I think that the Nathan Fillion short that he did was played close to the vest in the sense that they used practical effects. They were using smoke and mirrors, and they
Yeah,
had
and it was
this-
just like it was just a more contained.
it was a
like,
love letter in the sense
story.
to but I'm even just talking about the way that they filmed this on this set style location, and it was done in a way where you thought, hey, this is like a cheesy 80s adaptation of what was initially inspired by those 80s films. This felt like I was watching Spider-Man, but they just turned Tom Holland's name. They changed.
I mean, it could have been.
They changed Tom Holland's character into a different.
It feels like it could have been any other movie.
Yeah,
it's very.
Yeah,
it's just very generic.
I kind of agree with that.
Safe.
It is generic. It is safe.
Yeah.
Yes, it doesn't try to do anything that pushes the line. Not that it needs to push the line or push the limit,
but it's not.
It's not doing anything.
It's
that,
just not really original. Like,
and that was the same thing that had an issue with Tomb Raider.
It's basically
the
just
same
like,
issue there.
It's like here's a little fan service moment, boring story. To the next fan service moment, boring story.
I was actually surprised there was as little fan service as I seemed to.
Yeah, there wasn't a few moments.
There was a couple. The Naughty Dog
spoilers
sticker.
had. Yeah, there was a Naughty Dog sticker in his suitcase.
Spoilers.
Yeah,
I'm just talking about like the set piece scenes.
Yeah,
and if we're in spoiler
real quick,
territory,
I want to get there. Like Nolan North making that cameo.
Sure. Yeah, okay.
Fine, great. Like that was funny.
It was an oblivious. Here's your.
Everybody who knows his face.
What's
funny about that is only something the game fans are gonna know, because like.
Sure.
No,
but that's why it's there.
Yeah. Right. That's why it's there.
It's similar to the infamous, or at least infamous in my circle.
It's not like you're gonna recognize Nolan North.
Rogue One pig face moment where everyone in the movie theater went, I know that guy because I'm a real fan. It has the same essence. When you see Nolan North's face, some people in the theater think like,
I know your character.
Who's that guy? I don't get the joke. And everyone else goes, we do. And Rogue One had that very strong moment with the pig face. Hey, watch where you're going, or whatever he says. I'm 1 in 14 systems. And those are fun. I mean, I'm sure that I didn't watch all of Book of Boba Fett, but there are recurring characters. There are experiences that are designed, and I know Marvel does it a lot. There are experiences, albeit some short, that are designed to elicit a specific response out of certain people, certain groups, certain followers or worshipers.
And kind of going back to Tom's point about the action set pieces, like I don't know if I enjoyed the club thing in the beginning because that was like 1-to-1 Uncharted 4.
You mean the club underneath the?
No, sorry, the auction.
Yeah, the auction.
Sorry, not the club.
Okay,
the auction. It kind of looks like it could be a club.
Right.
That was probably the closest.
Like 1-to-1, like they do the
closest.
same exact thing that
It was
they do in the
close.
game. And then we move to the Barcelona thing where you meet Chloe, who's probably not that. I'm curious if that Australian accent was fake, but she's pretty good.
I was gonna say
serviceable again.
Without trying to like take over the table here. Can we parcel it into maybe talk character by character first, and then maybe like plot? This way it makes sense because I feel like I have so many things to say that we're just going to keep jumping around.
I'm just kind of jumping
I get what you're
around.
saying because I do want to talk about the girl who plays Chloe, and I don't want it to be in
Let's just talk about it right now.
So we kind of talked about Sully. We kind of talked about we'll
Drake.
get to Tom Holland in a second again. She was good. I thought that she was the most her and Antonio Banderas' character
they were probably the two most
effective characters where I was compelled to understand their their mantra in this world. Like, despite the fact that we already know Chloe from the video game franchise, this Chloe felt new to me, but also familiar, but I was intrigued by her little
I'm curious,
untrustworthy.
Like, what else she was in? Like, what else she's been in?
Films,
really? This is her first big thing.
She has a few other films, nothing notable. Same with
not surprised.
Who plays so Nadine Ross is renamed to Joe Braddock, and essentially the same character. This is her second movie ever.
Ineffective character, ineffective actress. The woman who played Chloe was very effective. At least I felt. Yeah. She compelled me to care about what was happening.
And the villain twist of like, we're going to hire Antonio Banderas to be the villain.
Who was also strong.
And then we're just going to kill him, and Nadine, or Joe, is going to be...
Nadine.
Yeah, fake Nadine is going to be the villain. Like, and I'm just like, I don't really...
But this is this literally...
surprising, but...
That's like a plot point that literally happens in almost all 4 of the Uncharted games.
It is, yeah.
And
it was one of my criticisms.
But the problem is they do it here...
But it's not effective.
It's not effective.
Right.
Because it doesn't happen in the same way, and it doesn't happen in the same, like, usually when it happens in the game, like, just take Uncharted 1, for example. It happens in the last, like, 5 minutes of the game, where you're so convinced at this point
Yeah.
that in Uncharted 1, Roman is like the big bad guy, and they finally found El Dorado, and you're so convinced at this point, oh, he finally got the treasure. What the fuck am I gonna do now? And then Navarro is like playing him because it's like a fucking virus inside of the treasure.
Right, and you like not
It's
at one
very
point in the
effective
game
because
do
you're
you
like, oh
really
shit, he's like the real mastermind, and then it's like the last 5 minutes, it's over. This was like,
Yeah. So did you agree Antonio Banderas was effective in this?
oh my god, and it was also just a,
I want to hear.
I don't know. I just kind of thought they brought in Antonio Banderas to have Antonio Banderas, to be honest. I didn't feel his villain like I didn't feel like he was effective as a villain. He was missing
I
something.
disagree, and I will explain. I felt that his character was effective to me because he was almost like promoted as a villain early in the film and in the trailers. He was kind of like, hey, we're bringing Antonio Banderas in because he's cool as shit and we need a villain.
Right.
But I felt that as the film went on, he kind of just seemed like this mogul, this kind of like rich, invested character
who has some sort of background that they really only lightly touch on. That was like, oh, there's some like blood lineage here, like his
they're trying to do like the
ancestors.
Rafe plot from 4.
Yeah, or even like with Drake, who he said he was descendant of Sir Francis Drake, which is untrue, but
I think is
he goes with it.
It might be a
it's the
off,
opposite.
way off comparison, but I think it's a good one. I don't know if you'll know it, but The Adventures of Tintin, the Daniel Craig character, the villain, has a very similar plot line where it's portrayed to you as a financial investment, but it ultimately has more of an emotional and legacy
and so
based connection.
and
that's how
like
this
that
was
too.
played. And I thought that played well because despite the fact that Uncharted has this kind of like phantasmic approach to things at times, this movie was a little confused about that, but what it did well, at least with Antonio Banderas' character, was that he wasn't just villainous. He kind of was understandably involved and entrenched in this financial effort to complete this, treasure hunt.
What do you mean you were confused by the fantastic?
I was a little confused by how hard they were going to go
with like the monsters. And
yeah,
stuff.
in relation to the video games,
and they didn't.
Yeah,
right,
At
and
all.
they didn't.
Which
they
is
grounded.
probably a good idea.
Yeah, but at the same time, and I'm not saying this is like phantasmic or magical, but him deciding to murder his father, Antonio Banderas' character, was out of left field, and it felt like, oh, you want me to feel a way about this, and I don't.
Just didn't care.
Yeah,
It
it's
had
like
this
they just like threw it in there. They barely even set up the father at all.
Yeah, all of the
like the deaths, like even
all
when
of the henchmen characters, including Fake Nadine and him, had moments where they were normal mercenaries, financially indebted people, and then they would do like at random moments, and I was like, are they normal people or are they like, I have a knife and I'm gonna cut your throat and like laugh?
Yeah, like I was gonna say, like the way they killed Antonio Banderas' character. It's so
like
it's just so quick
Yeah, it was
and
weak.
no build up,
it was
just
weak.
so random.
And also
that
you
you just sit there and you're like, dude, this like what is that?
You killed him off to replace him with a horrible asset in the film.
Whenever they
opinion.
do that in the games, it's built up,
Right.
and it's for some specific reason,
like with Talbot or something. Like
Yes.
even though he's like the henchman in 3,
Yeah.
you like kind of have a rivalry with Talbot, but he's not the main bad guy. It's what's her
that's
name?
why
Marlo.
Marlo.
Yeah, and like it's built up with her, but
Right.
like Talbot, you still want his head
It's always
as
like,
much as hers.
Every single game basically has the villain twist. So Uncharted 1, you have Navarro taking over as the main villain in like the last minute of the game, but it means something because he opens the sarcophagus and shit comes out, and you're like, what the fuck is that? Uncharted 2, Flynn's in the game for like 95% of the game, and then Lazarevich shoots him. And Flynn blows himself up with a grenade, and he has like a speech.
right.
It means something. It's
Yeah,
not just like
that's
a quick death.
I really like Lazarevich, to be honest.
So do I,
I don't
yeah.
know why. He's effective.
Uncharted 3, both villains are in it for the entire game until fucking Marlo falls in the sand pit.
and 4 is
And 4,
similar.
Nadine is like it's like the plot for Uncharted 1, where Nadine's like the under henchman
Right,
of Rafe,
to Rafe,
and
yeah.
flips on Rafe at the end.
Yeah.
So they all have it, but they all take the entire game to build up.
Right.
They don't just
And-
have like the character sitting there going like, I'm drinking whiskey.
And we
Yeah,
also
and-
have
It's like
8 to I'll say 16 hours of time to build up to
Sure.
that.
Yeah, well,
you
that
know,
was-
we're
that was
also
the point
dealing
I
with
was
a
making.
movie, but like
I
other
agree.
movies have done it more effectively.
Sure, but
Yeah.
a 2-hour movie is pretty long.
Nah, I don't think so.
I mean, it's not 18 hours.
I think once you're approaching 2:30, 2:45, that's a long movie. I think 2 hours is actually a pretty sizable time to do things, but like not all that much.
But honestly, like for something like this, like I feel like there's like 80s adventure movies that are much like less in time than this.
You know what's funny? All
They're much
movies
shorter.
from that time period are like an hour and a half to 2 hours. Like that's it. Like we just reviewed all the Batman movies, and all of them are like 2 hours on the dot.
I think beyond those, I can't really think of any other characters that were relevant in mentioning. I mean, the fake Nadine, not good. Do we all agree that she was?
I don't think she was
not
that
good.
Yeah, not good.
I don't think she was.
I mean, just like
Look the part
she
for
wasn't really
sure,
effective.
but like I just didn't care.
yeah,
Like all I was concerned about is why is her name not Nadine Ross? That's
Yeah.
all I was concerned about the whole time.
Yeah,
I think they
was-
also just made her like too flashy looking. Like
you know,
she had like blonde highlights,
you
in
know,
her hair
like-
and stuff. It's like just give her a normal haircut, make her a normal person.
I think that's fine. I don't care.
yeah.
about her hair.
I mean, yeah. That's not fair in the sense that there are villains in some of the best. You know, some of the best.
if anything, her
adventure
hair
films
makes
that-
her stand out.
That's what I'm saying. It's like
But
it's
that's
like
a, and that's a
little
very
bit
like
too much.
That's a very like cliche villain thing. Like they have some physical feature
Yeah, right.
that makes them
Right, like they
stand
have an
out.
eye
And-
patch or a scar on their face.
Right,
Yeah.
right. You know, Elena's absent from this movie entirely. I didn't expect to see her, but you know, we
I
get
thought maybe in like the post-credit
And
Marvel
who-
ripoff that I might get her, but we didn't.
who we didn't talk about is Sam.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, let's do
and,
that.
and
yeah.
maybe like go towards
Wow,
the,
look
the
at how
ending.
forgettable he was already that we
Yep.
didn't even mention him, and I had honestly forgotten that he was in the film.
it's just like
I mean, he's only in 5 minutes of screen time, and then he has some
Right.
voiceover throughout
Yeah,
the movie.
and then they reveal that like he's dead, and you're supposed to give a shit.
Well, you're
it's
skipping
exactly
way,
like
you're
Uncharted
skipping
4.
you're skipping
No, it's
you're skipping
not
way
at
ahead.
all.
where they like you think he's dead, except in the beginning he comes
yeah,
back.
but they introduce him as he's like an actual character in 4. Like you're interacting with him. It's not like this movie.
he's
literally
an
in it.
actual character in this movie.
Yeah, he is.
He
like,
is.
not. Yeah, but you
They
can't
utilize
just, you
a-
can't just kill somebody that you're supposed to care about off screen and then have the character cry about it. Like it's just not effective.
I can give that to you.
If they were
To
gonna
be fair, I mean, you know, again, like, you know, to maybe to movie people, it won't resonate. But Nolan North and Troy Baker in the Uncharted series are so good, and you know, trying to go to this film last night and you know, experience those emotions that I did playing Uncharted 4. It's just not going to happen. And it's not going to happen for a couple of reasons. One of them being that I do agree with both of you kind of on that sentiment about how they played the character out and what they showed and what they didn't. But again, Gooch is right. You don't really have the time to hash
give a
out
shit.
these
Yeah.
experiences. I mean, it's
games are much different than
Sure.
movies.
yes, it's very difficult to do
and,
that.
and that's
And
why the Marvel movies work, because we have
That's
three or
right.
four other movies
you
to
will
care.
never stop. You two will never stop getting what you want because they will
You're kind of right.
keep making these. And if you guys don't like something they do, they will get it. They'll get you
they'll get
back.
the next one.
They'll get you on the next one.
I mean,
or
I
they'll
mean,
try.
Look
They
at,
will
look
try.
at DC.
Yeah.
Look at me
The
with
Snyder
DC.
Cut,
The
right?
Snyder Cut is
Yeah.
a prime example of that.
Would you guys watch another Uncharted movie though?
Of course
I would.
Of course
Yeah.
I would.
So that's the thing. We care about. I love.
They
comic
will
books
get
so much that
thir-
I'm like, yeah, I will go. See, if I hated a certain Marvel movie, yeah, I'll go back and see it.
They
Especially
will
if it's
get
different directors.
$13.40 pending inflation 2 years from now. Again, for me, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, unless they absolutely did something that was like.
And we,
There's nothing that they could do that
Yeah,
this one didn't
I
do.
disagree.
Yeah.
For me. For me.
I
But
agree with
would
that.
say there's absolutely something Marvel could do that would make me not go see another Marvel.
Okay, yeah, Marvel might be different. Uncharted, I don't. There's no. The bar is set
Yes,
so
I
low
agree
for
with
me.
that. I think
When I
it's-
saw the trailer for this and Tom sent it to me, and I knew there was even a resonant idea that
I
we
love
might
how
go
I,
to the movies.
I love how I called the end credit scene. I'm like, that's the end credit scene.
Yeah, you-
with,
yeah,
with
you
the
saw
spoiler
that.
with the mustache, and
Well,
it's
you're
like,
familiar with those styles of
Yeah.
movies.
and I'm just like, that, I'm like, of course it's the end credit scene. Of course it is, because why would he get the mustache in the middle of the movie?
Yeah,
that's a Sully. That's a physical trait.
They should stop.
and the revolver,
They
right?
should stop doing this with movie trailers. But again, part of the issue is that the culture expects it because it,
Yeah.
you know, along with not just superhero movies, but the trailer was the whole movie. It essentially was the whole movie.
Yeah, it's one of those, and I did want to talk about the action set piece at the end.
Yeah, so I think we talked about
boats.
characters. You want to just start the movie here. It opened with the cargo plane, correct?
Right. Yeah, the cargo
that
plane
was the big Uncharted 3 set piece.
Like literally, you know,
E3.
just like an Uncharted game, we start with the big action set piece, just like 2 with the train.
That's true,
except
yeah.
this one, we're starting with the cargo plane, and the cargo plane is fine, and we all, as game fans, we're all just like, okay, yeah, like,
Okay.
sure.
My, if you want to, you can, and then I will tell you my reaction to the opening scene.
I mean, I wasn't really thrilled that it was the opening, that it was like the direct opening of the film.
But that's why you like that's in 2.
That's in
They do the.
Oh, you're saying like
They do the same thing in 2.
Right.
They do the exact same thing.
I'll tell you what the difference is that matters to me.
I agree. It's just not.
Tom might agree with me.
It's just like two. You're kind of like. It's like hard to explain. Like 2, you're just kind of you're wondering why he's there, and that you climb the train, but he gets off it, and like.
Yeah.
Then you're still kind of wondering. This you're just like.
And then it flips
and
back.
then a huge difference. I mean, I guess it's good for people watching the movie, but if they're making this for people who like Uncharted, or just like, you know, people who are familiar with it, it's just not effective because it's not original. It's like you just know. You're just like, you're like,
yeah,
all
but
right,
there are
That's the goal. Do you think the goal is to make it for Uncharted fans, or do you think it's to make it for the general movie-going audience?
I mean, it's clearly both.
Yeah, it's both. That's the
clearly
problem.
both.
clearly to make money.
Yeah,
Yeah.
To get as many butts and seats.
Correct.
Right.
It's I mean, it's. I wasn't really thrilled. I think they could have made a much more effective opening. I didn't mind like the Sam scene in the beginning, but even that
like
was
from
like
Uncharted.
that.
The issue with opening the film the way Gooch is totally right that it is effective in the sense that opening the film in the same, style that the games opened, in the sense that big set piece.
Right.
I mean, big moment, big set piece. This is an action adventure. This is it's right here, and it opens with a bright light. That is true. They did that right, and they should have done that. And I think that in that sense, it was done well. The difference is that when you play Uncharted, which is again a Naughty Dog title, and I think we'd all agree, like one of the better studios and more impressive studios in AAA gaming. One of the best studios in AAA gaming.
Honestly, you could probably debate the best.
Correct.
You know,
I would agree with that.
yeah.
The difference is that when you open a game, let's say Uncharted 3 or Uncharted 2 with the train sequence, I'm impressed by what I'm looking at. And there is a marvel to what I'm experiencing because it opens
in the game.
And I'm like, technically, visually, there's something drawing.
There's a lot going on.
Even if I pulled back from Nathan and the story and the fact that it's a train on a cliff, just the technical and visual marvel of what I'm viewing is enough that makes me say, I'm playing this game again. I'm back, and it got better. And this is the leading industry. This is the leading studio in the industry, and because of that, it's effective. Beyond that, you're right. It opens with this action sequence, and whoa, what's going on with this character that I'm going to care about, or I already do care about. The opening scene in this film looks like
A green screen.
it is a green screen.
Yeah, it is a green screen.
Looks like I'm watching Monsters Inc. It's not even a live action.
I will say
set
that
piece.
there's literally a shot that is identical to the shot of when he falls out of the cargo plane. It's like literally they scaled it like 1-to-1, and it looks.
Is it when his foot is caught?
No, Nate actually isn't in the shot. It's filmed from the perspective of, I guess, first person more or less on one of the boxes, and how the boxes are like flowing behind the open cargo plane.
Yeah.
That shot is literally it's the same scene as when the cargo plane opens and you get flung out and he hits the box, and it does this like big like jolt thing, and you're like, holy shit.
I will.
But yeah, I agree.
I
like,
will give you like a comparative.
It's so much more
perspective
impressive
of it
in the game.
If we went to see the film last night, and the opening scene's him like this, and this little thing he's doing this, and you're like, all right, there's the ring. And
There's little.
I'm introduced to this thing that I
lung.
know, and that was effective. And then you have this big action sequence. But instead, they took Tom Holland's stunt double and they held him like 250 feet in the air by his foot, and they had a real plane, half of a plane at least, with fans blowing, and it made me think, holy shit, how did they do that? Yes, it would have been effective.
Yeah, you get that if your actor's Tom Cruise, but your actor ain't Tom Cruise.
Is it Tom Cruise, or is it like the decision of the studio, the directorial decision? It's a lot. It's the production.
See, but here's the thing.
I'm not saying Tom Holland had to get hung by a rope. I'm just saying,
but like with an actor of Tom Cruise's caliber, you know he's gonna have some say in that shit. So
maybe
I
whoever has the say. My point. I don't care who it is.
I'm not giving you an excuse, but I'm giving you a reasoning as to why.
And it's possible. There's a lot of possibilities that multiple or all of the members of the studio have made that decision collaboratively to say, hey, this is easy to do on a green screen, or maybe it's not even that it's easy. Maybe this is our directorial decision. We think visually it looks better. I don't. I think when I see it, I thought this was easy.
Well, it's not about quality. It's about money. It's about money. It's less expensive to do green screen. It's more expensive to do practical. And
but what if Naughty Dog said, well, it's more expensive for us to take the route we're going and allow it to hurt their, hurt the impressive nature of the content they create. Like Naughty Dog, the reason why Naughty Dog was so successful with the few titles that they have, the few contemporary titles, being Uncharted and The Last of Us, is because they don't shortcut. Everything they do, every time it's revealed, almost every consumer within this industry agrees, wow, they didn't take a shortcut. They did it the right way. They worked their asses off to make sure the detail is there. The collaborative effort on all fronts, to the point where I'm impressed by every game they release. I'm impressed by it. Like I said, technologically, visually. Why is it different for this movie? Why is it? I'm not saying why is it different. I know why you're saying why it could be and why it probably is. Why does it get a pass to be? Like why? Like
because the movie industry is different than the gaming industry.
It wasn't though.
What
it never was. It seems like
last time I'm jumping in, but it's very different from video. Like it's
I don't think these processes are not.
I think that denigrates good directors and film sets.
I hear what you're saying, but it's the way the money works in movie.
If Chris Nolan made this Uncharted movie, it'd be a goddamn good movie. So that denigrates good artists. You're
talking about putting a lot of money into Chris Nolan.
You know how much money they probably spent in marketing for this movie? It was in the Super Bowl ads.
No, but they've already made it back. They don't need Chris Nolan in the movie industry. They just need Tom Holland, who's a big name. It's just
right.
Tom Holland.
No. I get it.
It's unfortunate.
I think
that is the way the movies work now.
I think comparing the video game industry to the movie industry is really hard. Is really hard. I don't think it's fair. They're like the movie industry is like.
But how is it different?
It's
but
like the movie industry. How I don't know. I don't work either.
Like playing Madden, right? Every year. Okay. See,
that's more comparable. Because that game is chonked out for money.
But that's what I'm saying. So you have like a Madden category. You have a Madden. You have a category of games that includes games like Madden. You have a category of games like Ghost of Tsushima, right? Like it's fair to say that there's an objective standard for artists within an industry. And the point that I'm making about Uncharted is they took a franchise out of a top tier, like an impressive top tier, original and independently birthed franchise, and they turned it into Madden.
I have a really good follow-up for you. You want to know why? They didn't have the director who had the heart in this movie. That's why I have faith in the Metal Gear Solid project, because Jordan Vogt Roberts, who is a massive Metal Gear fan.
What has he done?
Kong Skull Island.
It will be garbage.
Yeah.
It will be garbage.
Yeah, it'll be
like
Island.
this. Uncharted was Kong Skull Island.
Even if the Metal Gear movie's bad, at least Jordan Vogt Roberts is the guy who should have done it.
But that's different. That's again.
But this director, he did fucking Venom. That doesn't give him much credit.
But that's like EA saying, well, we hired Patrick Mahomes to come on board and he's a football player, and he's an MVP, or he's an all-star, and he's really involved in football, and he knows the things you guys like, so he's going to implement more of the hip-hop songs, because we got Dr. Dre also to work on this project, and you're going to really like all the things that we give you in this shit product. I mean, if he did Kong Skull Island, that movie was horrible.
I liked it.
Horrible.
To me, that
it's not
movie,
even a movie.
To me, Kong Skull Island,
It's
that's
like a cartoon.
It's literally Venom.
Yeah.
No, it's not. They're
me, it's
not
the same
comparable.
thing.
No, they're not.
Production wise, it's hard to imagine what difference there was between what I saw
Right.
last night and Kong Skull Island. I mean, they're comparatively
I
the same
agree.
thing.
Yeah.
I'd love for you to jump in, because
I hate talking off.
It's totally fair for you to interject.
I do feel like having. This is a franchise people care a lot about, and people you have a very strong connection to. And I unfortunately think the way movies work, they are looking, like I said earlier, to net the biggest box office drive.
It's all about money.
Yeah.
Even with
gonna put
games.
as little, and for some reason, games, I don't know why it's treated different. You're right. Like, they should be handing a AAA game story like this to a AAA director.
Or an independent director, like, or
but
A24 films.
Also, you have the issue where directors don't take games seriously. Some of them do, and it's gotten better. But like someone like Scorsese, who is talked vehemently about Marvel movies, other industry people have reacted to that. What did Denis Villeneuve say recently, that somebody called him like an asshat or something?
It's the regular criticism, which I think is a fair one, like Marvel movies, cookie cutter, all that stuff.
Yeah. Right.
And I think it's
But like, what do you think like Martin Scorsese's opinion on video games are? He probably doesn't have one, and he probably thinks they're for kids. Like that's the issue you run into.
Nolan, I think you could get maybe, because his brother really is a big video game guy, and he seems to really respect the video game industry.
Chris Nolan's brother is the co-writer for Interstellar.
I think it maybe has something to do with like the way either industry is at the point of a revolution, because you see like movies in like the 70s and 80s and early 90s where they're putting like maximum effort into these films.
And it's also the technology. Think of the times, you know.
Also, unfortunately, I know Uncharted is a different series, and it's unique and all that, but I mean it's kind of Indiana Jones.
It is.
Right?
It is.
Right. Yeah.
It is Indiana Jones. It is.
I wouldn't say it's Indiana Jones, but it is intentionally.
It's a premise and idea we've had maybe three or four times before.
So
it's not.
I think it's self-aware.
Uncharted is not an original idea. That's fair, right?
Not really, no.
Yes.
So let's yeah. It's a generic adventure.
And even like Tomb Raider, this and
story.
Tomb Raider are like, what do you think Uncharted was inspired by game-wise? Tomb Raider.
Yeah, it's like a cycle. They rip each other off. You can use something like let's use Temple of Doom as an example.
Okay.
Love that movie.
I think Temple of Doom is the worst one of the trilogy.
It's so different.
It's
so different.
Even Temple of Doom has the maximum amount of effort that they could have put into that film at the time.
But again, it's in the early 80s or 70s.
Yes.
The times are different.
Yes.
They have to be practical.
The times are different because the 70s and 80s, early 90s, this is when you had to put, like, there was so much competition. You had to interject the most maximum amount of effort into the film that you're making.
And we still got bad video game movies.
So, okay. Then let's say now you have the fourth Indiana Jones movie. And it's kind of approaching,
Crystal Skull.
Modern,
we open up on a CGI shot.
Yeah, it's approaching modern
CGI
the modern era of movies.
Where Go ahead. I'll let you finish.
It's like this. It's like movies, they continually getting better, and you're going, wow, how are they doing that? And then at some point, it's kind of like planes off, where you can get away with making like the people like your movie with the most minimal amount of effort.
Yeah, I would like to go on the record and just say I don't. The CGI is not what I have an issue with. I actually really like CGI in certain scenarios. I think that CGI can be so crazy effective in certain scenarios that not only is there sometimes not an alternative, but it's a better alternative to practical. And I'm not saying that CGI is just the this is just the not goodness. It's just if it's CGI, right. It's not. I'm not saying that. I think that people who value filmmaking and people who value film, or anything, honestly, if you value something, like if you value a sports team, You want to know that the team you're rooting for is invested in what they're doing. They're committed to what they're doing. They're giving 100% of what they're doing for the team, for the project that they're doing. And I think that people who like film, and I'm not a huge film person, but I did grow up loving movies. And I think that, you know, it's sometimes hard to express, but yeah, there is a falling off for a lot of projects where it seems very obvious that they just don't care.
Well,
they just don't care.
Here's the
point.
I
get the point about money. Like I get that.
I want to go back to a point where Tom was bringing up like older movies. Look at all the video game movies that came out in the '90s: Super Mario Brothers, Mortal Kombat,
Doom,
The
Rock.
Well, that was early O's, but still relevant. And Street Fighter. They're all fucking trash.
Mortal Kombat.
And you can't really blame technology on that. I think video game adaptations, and it's clearly a trend, and the only ones that don't count are Detective Pikachu and Sonic. They're clearly in their own bracket. All these video game adaptations never quite hit the mark. And I don't really know what it is. I don't really think people have really understood like why these adaptations are not on par with, say, you know, a Scorsese film or whatever.
Just because they're better to play them as a game.
Right, and that's a great point.
Well,
you know?
let me kind of respond to the guy all screaming, because I do totally accept I do totally accept your point about the money and all that. And I think
that mic may be set up to hit on mute. Look at no on the OBS producer mic. Is it muted?
Yeah.
Hit on mute on Trail on the computer.
I totally understand.
All right,
he's just going to be the off-screen guy then.
Yeah, you're just going to be off-screen.
I totally understand the reference to money being the goal and all of that. But just imagine for a moment that this franchise, again, which came from...
let's bring it back to Uncharted, because we are kind of getting off base.
Yes, let's just imagine for a moment that this franchise, which is a highly, highly successful, critically and, you know... Commercially, it's a serious. It means a lot to people, and within this world, within the video gaming world, we all care about it. Just like Assassin's Creed, just like Tomb Raider, those games have
Warcraft,
a core following. Have a core following. Blah blah blah. Beyond that, in the event that you made a film about this somewhat generic but initially original story and cast of characters, is it not fair to say that had it been done with due diligence, let's say they just wanted to, let's just say some director played Uncharted and was like, dude, I really like these characters. They remind me of films I grew up with. I really like these characters. No one's really done a movie like that in decades. Let's take it seriously. Let's say they did it. Is it fair to say that 15 years from now, somebody could say, dude, these Uncharted movies are great. And somebody says, yeah, did you ever play the games? And somebody says, I didn't even know they were a game. Is it like, do you think that's impossible that they can make a good game? I mean, there are things that I was introduced to that looking back, I went, I never even knew that was a show, or I never even knew that was a toy.
I imagine kids with comic book characters have the same thing.
It's very popular in toys. In toy collecting.
We're not that age. We there's no way we could know. Did I know? Like, actually, no. Fuck that. With Batman and Superman growing up, we didn't know they were comic book characters at first. Right. We watched them in movies.
Right. And I don't think it's fair, despite the fact that I agree with the off-screen guy's opinion, that it's not even an opinion. It's a reality. I get all that. I get all that. But that can't speak for the entire industry. And I obviously did not expect to go to the movie theater last night and leave saying, wow, this was a good film. I knew what I was getting into. You're having
the bigger conversation.
Yeah, I'm just saying it. Like,
think when they're aligned with these big companies too, they're not willing to take a risk.
Sure,
right.
That's
also
it's a studio film.
House handing out $45 million to someone to make an Uncharted.
Right.
Imagine A24 or Annapurna,
and like finding someone with a true kind of artistic vision.
Mm-hmm.
They don't want to do that. They want the sure thing. This made its money back already.
Right.
This is good. This is going to keep making money. It's going to get a sequel.
Yep.
Right.
They made the safe bet. And they're making the safe money.
All right. Let's get into the movie real quick. Let's
go back to it.
Yeah. Let's get back into the movie.
For me, I think I've said the last action set piece was fucking fantastic. The flying boats being lifted out of the cave, very Uncharted, very cool. Really enjoyed it. I wanted to say that like 20 minutes ago.
Okay.
But like I really like that. I really felt like that scene was Uncharted because I could see that happening in the game 200%.
Okay.
But that's kind of it of what I really have to say about the movie. Like, there really isn't too much to say. We had a much bigger discussion, which I really liked, because this could have been easy 20 minutes and we could have been in and out.
I think when we left the theater, the one thing that you had mentioned to me that I vehemently disagreed with was that you said that the second half was better than the first. I could not possibly rewatch this enough times to agree with you. I mean, that is a bad take. The first half was...
I'm full of those.
Good. The first half was a grounded, despite bad writing, bad comedic writing, the first half was...
the comedy wasn't
good.
that good.
The first half was, okay, like, thanks for introducing these characters. It's cute. These are cute characters. And the Barcelona set was the best sequence that this film had, filmed on location. The drone shots of the cathedral area were great. It felt like a real project. Felt like they really had cameras in every area of this
Barcelona,
city, and you felt like you were in this really, like, I'm watching the movie, I'm like, dude, look at that cathedral, look how sick this is, like, they're really there, this is awesome. The last sequence that you're referring to was...
It's a CGI thing.
There's nothing to look at. I'm
Right.
just looking at Spider-Man's face. There was nothing else there. Him going like, grab my shoe, hang on. That was the whole... It's just like this action thing that has no content. It's just them yelling things so they can go back to their home in Hollywood. There was no, like, at least the Barcelona thing was like, dude, they went to Barcelona and Antonio Banderas is like standing in front of this famous cathedral. That's cool. There's like a whole team of camera people there. Wow. And then the underground area where they go with Chloe.
Yeah, the underground was pretty cool.
I like how they went
puzzle.
into that
I like
club.
the
I thought that was
the club was cool. I
interesting.
agree. The club was cool. The little love entanglement with Chloe in the beginning was also good.
Yeah.
And her turning, I was like, damn, I care about this little thing. That 40 minutes of the movie or 35 minutes was good. And now I'm going out on the plank to say that. I mean, that was good. If the whole movie was that, you had yourself a real movie. Now, they don't make real movies, so I have to just enjoy the small bit of what I get
pieces
to kind of make a full thing for myself.
I like the
Tom, what else that we didn't talk about yet that you wanted to talk to or elaborate
well, I don't know.
on?
I mean, I think the ending was horrible. I think that
What the action set piece or the actual ending?
it was just disgusting.
They're just like, yeah, we're gonna ride off into the sunset, and
It's
that's
kind
the
of
end of the movie.
like if you're gonna film something that's just full, like they're not even filming it, it's just a full animation on a computer.
Sure.
Why would I not just be playing the video game at that point? You know, or why wouldn't you just make an animated movie at that point?
See, like the reason why I can't like almost like wish you didn't say it is because like you're now criticizing the times we live in. It's hard to do that.
Right. Well,
It is hard.
It's difficult to get to not get bogged down in this.
I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just telling you, like, you need to understand why that stuff's
But
done.
who's it hard for?
What do you mean?
You're saying it's hard to do that. It's
just
hard
not-
for
is that
Sony to do that, but they don't care.
Gooch is making the point that, like,
Again, it's money, dude.
Gooch is making the point that
it's money. It's not that it's hard to do. It's just there's easier ways to do it for less time and less money.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's what it is, and it's not that the practical stuff is hard to do, but why don't we just do it in CGI?
Let's jump in. You can do things a lot. You can get away. You can't get away with doing shit crappily in a video game. You feel it. You're playing it. You know it. For some reason, I don't know why people accept. I think that CGI mess that you and they could make that shit real. They could mix some practical.
No, they couldn't.
CGI.
They couldn't do that.
No, they could make it feel
Maybe
more,
they could.
They could make it feel more real.
Yeah, we're gonna go out in the Caribbean and fly some ships around.
But it's just, I do think the money thing in the I know I sound like a broken record.
I agree. I totally
But like
agree.
it's the truth.
Yeah.
It's what it is.
Well, I agree with Phil. Like,
And it's sad. I don't want it to be that way.
Certain aspects, I'm not totally against CGI. The problem is, like, don't make your movie around CGI.
I don't think they made this
movie. Of course they did. There was somebody sitting on the screenplay.
But that also goes back
for
to
like the last 20 pages.
It's the times.
And Tom Holland jumps on a massive pirate ship and flies through the sky. Like, how the fuck else are they gonna make that?
I think it's difficult. I think it's difficult to not get bogged down in. I mean, if you go down this rabbit hole, it's really just going to reach like
every
the degradation of society.
Right.
Nobody cares about what they make anymore.
You can literally go from movie to movie to movie to movie to movie to movie to movie and make the same critique over and over and over.
And I do agree with that.
And like,
but
it's like,
sometimes,
is it worth having? I don't know.
But sometimes, and I do agree with you, and it's not worth getting bogged down in that conversation. But I think in the middle ground between the conversation you're having, which I agree, let's not get bogged down in it, films like Joker, which I didn't love, but they took a comic book, and I won't even go to the Chris Nolan Dark Knight, because that's like on the high end of, we took a comic book character and made him fucking real life, and it's the coolest shit ever. I'm just talking about Joker, because Joker was them saying, hey, remember films like, you know, Raging Bull and Taxi Driver, you know.
Yeah, like what if the Joker was just a comedy?
Yes, yeah. These are films that have an emotional plight, and we can follow these characters. And despite the fact that there are these whimsical cartoon characters, we've put them in a real world. And Uncharted did that in the story sense for the most part. I know lifting pirate ships with helicopters is ridiculous, but
very cool.
For the most part,
in the first half of the film,
yes, for the most part, it was grounded, and it was like, hey, you guys got yourself a ball game here, and it's a real movie. They're crawling on their knees, going through, and like they're putting keys in things.
Yeah,
and
that
it's
was
moving like
sick.
The puzzle stuff was cool, and it's like, hey, we're making a movie here. I like I said, I agree. It's not worth getting bogged down in that conversation because it's a never-ending conversation.
Yeah,
and it's frustrating.
And I don't mean to disregard what you're saying.
No, but some people have a higher tolerance for it, and some people don't.
I have like no tolerance. If you write that into your fucking movie, it's pathetic.
And I've even said with Marvel, I would like to see, what if Marvel, they have a shit ton of money, what if Marvel decided to like really just try to do a film like extremely practical?
Daredevil, right? Daredevil was done pretty...
We were having this line getting popcorn. Right. I was like, Daredevil is kind of that answer to that, but it's also a show, it's different, like there's...
And also, it's not fair to say that they don't do any of it. I mean, even what I called a Book of Boba Fett and The Mandalorian's pretty grounded. I mean, they utilize some... questionable tactics at times and some stylistic weird stuff, but even the like CG environments in The Mandalorian, we're done with that panoramic.
Yeah, see, I agree.
Are you guys aware of this?
Yeah,
that was cool. Like if you're gonna do something like that, all right, cool. You got my respect.
That's kind of like different. Progressive.
Back to Uncharted.
Okay.
Yep.
With you,
right?
Because I feel like you were saying more, but you didn't. Finish.
The ending. You didn't like the ending.
Maybe you did.
You didn't like the ending at all. I agree with what you said to me in the car last night. The only part that felt like Uncharted wasn't in the movie.
Scene after the fucking credits.
It's a post-credit
with Sully
scene.
with a mustache.
With the Roman mention.
Why wasn't that the whole movie?
It was a different tone.
That was like at the end of Tomb Raider when she pulls out her two guns.
It's the same thing.
They give it to you.
It's a video game thing.
It literally felt like I was.
But guess what?
Well, it's not a video game thing. It's like a Marvel or a Star Wars thing.
But she does that in the game. She doesn't get two pistols until the very end of the first Tomb Raider 2013. She gets two pistols. They have to do the video game thing in a
but this necessarily wasn't a video game trope. It was just a scene out of Uncharted.
A video game movie trope.
Right now, Sully has his classic revolver.
But I don't think it's relevant to video games. It's the same thing that Ghostbusters does when they throw on the
more like Drake. He's wearing exactly what Tom's wearing.
Yeah, he's wearing this. I mean, it was just like it's the scene after the fucking credits, and it was like the best scene in the movie.
I don't agree with that, but it was definitely a different tone. It was cool.
And maybe you'll like the sequel better because it's going to be more in line.
Well, see, that's why I agree with him because they literally can't. I don't think they can make it worse. This is a good comparison to something like Jurassic World reboot, where like the first one was pretty decent.
Yeah, for sure.
And I like semi enjoyed watching it because it was just like what everybody wanted to see the whole time.
Pretty new. Yeah.
But then the sequels get worse.
Right.
The sequel, the first one is fucking atrocious. They can make a sequel that's better.
Yeah, and it looks like they're gonna follow the plot of the first game.
I think the issue is that your criticisms of it Like,
and then
they already broke all your cardinal rules, so there's no
cardinal rules on what?
of the CG and all that.
We didn't bring up Sam's brother in the prison. At the end, we found out he's alive and he's still writing postcards to Drake. And it's like, are we gonna get the Uncharted 4 Amy Hennig evil Sam?
Watch your back.
Yeah,
he does right.
Like that's interesting if they decided to explore that Uncharted 4 that we never got in the movie. I think that's
very Dave Filoni like to take something that never was and make it something that is now.
Because like what if we like you can put Sam in the plot of the Uncharted 1 game easy. Like just switch villains around.
So I have watched the all but the newest. I watched part of the newest Spider-Man, but the comedy in Uncharted, you felt it landed differently than Spider-Man? Than the comedic writing in Spider-Man and
what do you mean? I mean, did it land differently?
Did it get? Did you laugh at Uncharted?
Some of the jokes. Tom was next to me.
More or less of a success rate from like Tom Holland in the Spider-Man.
No, Marvel's writing's better. Clearly,
funnier.
Yes.
Okay. Tom.
To me, the jokes felt nothing like Uncharted.
I'm not asking about that. I'm saying
we're not. Yeah,
I'm just saying.
You're asking me if it's funny.
I'm saying like this film because the only thing I can compare this to is like
which is a no. Yeah,
not funny. No, they're not funny.
I disagree. I laughed twice, and there may have been what
some of the jokes.
16 jokes in the movie.
Yeah,
left twice.
It was. I will admit there were not jokes left and right.
Not nearly as bad as
like a Marvel movie,
Spider-Man or Star Wars or. Yeah, but again, that comedic relief has been successful for Star Wars and Marvel, I would imagine. Especially like Robert Downey Jr. Like I know there's a lot of comedic relief in the Marvel films.
Yeah, look at Paul Rudd.
Paul Rudd, right? Ant-Man. Yeah,
and then that's Jon Favreau. There's a lot of people in there who are making those decisions, and obviously back then.
Not on Iron Man 1. They were flying by the seat of their pants.
Right, that's what I'm saying. They're just making decisions on the fly to do shit.
I found
there's more leniency with it.
I found that this wasn't funny, but I didn't think that it wasn't any more or less funny than the other action adventure films. And
kind of wrapping this up. Do I want a sequel to this? No. Are we gonna get it? I don't know. We'll see how much
you're getting a sequel.
We'll see how much money it makes.
It'll probably get a sequel.
You're absolutely getting a sequel.
And if they do a sequel, all I would say is let's just kind of base it in the games a little bit more. Not the plot, but like get to why the games are good and put it in the movie. I think what Uncharted did by doing its own story and making it a younger Drake was the move. I don't think adapting the first game to the T was the move. Instead, they took the fourth one, took its base, and did something original. I think you have to give that credit. Because would you want to see Uncharted 1 or 2 totally adapted?
I wouldn't, and I don't think this movie was really original at all. That's the problem.
I never said it was original.
That's one of the biggest problems.
But what he's saying is they rebuilt like a fundamental basis for this film and kind of had to throw whatever they needed to throw in there.
They did something original in the movie isn't original, but they did not just take an Uncharted game
and just rip it off. Yeah, right. I actually agree that it was done.
I mean, yeah and no. I mean, they have the friggin' cargo plane in
right, there. But it's a video game movie. Those moments have to be in it. It has to.
The ending is literally the end of Uncharted 1 when they lift El Dorado out of the hole. They literally have the same. It was pretty. The one thing I found cool was they had the same boat as Uncharted 1. That was the ships were going to, and I thought they were going to have the final scene on it like Uncharted 1. That would have been kind of cool, but they didn't do it. But the thing is, they had the opportunity to make an original story. I think if they made just a separate story, it would have been more interesting. As opposed to they could have made their own set pieces instead of throwing things from the game into this mismatched story.
Yeah.
I think
I would have been more entertained.
Let me not to be rude. Your closing thought is you would never really like an Uncharted movie, no matter what they did. That's your.
I'm not
that's what
saying
you're saying. No, but I don't think you could be satisfied.
I think the margin.
I don't know what
they
could
small.
do for you.
I think the margin is very small. I mean, I think it'd be really difficult for Tom to be pleased with any.
It definitely would be difficult, but I don't think it's impossible.
It would be crazy if they.
It's a very small margin of success for
anything else you want to say, Phil?
No, not much. glad we could come on, and I had a good time. I had a good time watching it. It's not.
Yeah.
For me, it's not time wasted. I even when I get a chance to watch the Marvel movie,
No, I don't.
despite the fact that I don't enjoy them.
I don't think it's time wasted at all. I mean, because I enjoy watching movies. So like seeing something, just
that's
like,
a good
and
outlet,
understanding like why, like just watching it and you figure out why it's bad, why you don't like it. It's like funny. It's it's entertaining to watch even bad movies because sometimes you learn things from it.
I think that the takeaway for me was that it's 2022 and Tom Holland's like the thing,
right.
and I think that he's very likable. I mentioned to Matt last night that I think he's really likable, and I don't necessarily think that he's effective in this role, or that I even think he's that great. Maybe even just outside of
Watch
Spider-Man
the sequel,
in general.
have Chris Pratt in it.
But I was happy to see him do something different, even though he's basically playing, in my opinion, Spider-Man in this with like a muddled voice. But yeah, it was fun to go see this bad movie. I don't, the games are great. The movie is not good, but most of these movies aren't good. Most video games aren't good. So
that's true. Yeah, that too.
You have to. It's if you're hard to be pleased, then you're not going to be pleased very much. And I think that it was fun to go see it. Beyond that,
I forgot about this.
Yeah, that's
here's like half the movie. Come on.
With the lighter.
Yeah.
Start, please.
If you're an Uncharted fan, just go see it. Just because it's dumb, and just go see it. It's not worth getting upset over. It's not. It didn't insult anybody. In my opinion,
that's kind of my thing.
Didn't insult the credibility of it. It did.
Right.
The fan service stuff wasn't so much that it was like
disgusting.
Like the Nolan North thing was like cute. It's dumb. Don't put it in your movie.
Silly,
but whatever. It's cute. It's a dumb superhero movie almost, or like not even superhero movies are more serious than that. So
you heard it here you heard it here first, folks. Uncharted is cute.
Yeah, it's a cute
guys.
movie.
Thank you for watching live on twitch.tv. Twitch.tv/Delco Network. You can find this podcast wherever you can get your podcasts and also watch it on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/Delco Network. Facebook.com, of course, search Delco Network, and our @ on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok @ Delco Nerds. Please make sure to follow us. Join our Discord. You can find that link over on DelcoNerdNetwork.com, as well as pretty much all the other information that was said. Comments, questions, and concerns, guys at DelcoNerds@gmail.com. Getting the ads confused.
You guys are running like a law office.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's a lot of information.
It's a lot of information to remember. Yeah, it just remember, it just sticks over time. After listening to every podcast you do, it's the same shit.
Get this guy off the camera.
I usually do the outro.
Yeah.
So that's
yeah, okay.
Guys, thank you for watching. Stay nerdy. We'll see you next time.